You're known for having this massive music collection, record collection. Do you listen a lot to older music you yourself
No,
wrote?
no. I only listen to my own music when it's fresh from the studio. Once we get the finished mixing, the last mix of a record, I listen to it a lot. And I listen as a fan. I don't listen for mistakes at all. I'm waiting for the goosebumps, so to speak. Which is, I mean, when you hear yourself in the mix, it can be difficult because
Sure.
it's like listening to your voice on the answering machine, which a lot of people cringe when they do that. Like, do I sound like that? But yeah, and once I know that I love it as a music fan, I stop listening to it, and I only listen to the stuff if I have to relearn something.
Okay.
So I'm never out of pleasure. There's been times where we've done that for work morale on tour, where we sit the whole band in the middle of a tour, and maybe we started talking about what songs to play on the next tour or whatever, what songs would we want to play. Then we get a bit drunk and we sit around listening to our own stuff, you know, patting each other on the back, like you're great, you know, that type of, which I think is needed in a band, you know, in a band situation, like as I said, for work morale, and
Sure.
to feel that it's us against, you know, the world type of thing, I guess, you know. Like any other workplace, I think you need that type of pep talk every now and again. So that happens, yeah.
Okay.
But then, like I said, we're drunk, and I don't necessarily sit around like with my, you know, aptly saying, you know, like my feathers out, and
Right,
you know,
right.
like a peacock, thinking I'm great or we're great. But like it's more like you're great. You know, you guys are great, and you know, like we're kind of carrying each other that way. So I think that's pretty important, I think. But other than that, for me as a private music consumer, no, I don't listen to.
So can I assume that you've had this? Well, you say you always after mixing you like to listen to it. Have you done so for Sorceress? I can assume.
Yeah.
What did you notice about what you've written?
Well, I thought that it was, like, first I was really happy with my vocals.
Okay.
For two reasons. One, because I thought they sounded great. And secondly, because I managed to detach myself from the vocalist.
Okay.
I didn't listen to me, I listened to a singer. You know what I mean? That's important for me. With what I mentioned before, I don't want to hear myself in the
Sure.
mix. But I think I did a good job singing on that record. And the songs, like I love change, but it's not like it doesn't have to be a massive change on each record or on each song. But there was change on this record. There was a couple of songs like the ones I mentioned before that I felt I'd never done before. I never done anything similar to that before. And we can also jump between genres of music and make it sound genuine. Like if we're trying to play something that's supposed to sound a bit jazzy, for instance, I think we can do it fairly well. It doesn't sound like a bunch of metal guys trying to play jazz.
Sure.
Not that we have full-on jazz anyways, but you know what I mean. Like if it's psychedelic rock, it sounds like a psychedelic rock song. And if it's heavy, it sounds heavy, and it sounds real, as far as I'm concerned. I don't think a lot of bands have that strength that we do, that we can actually jump in between genres and make it sound genuine.
Does these things, do they happen in the studio when you're all together, or do you think of these beforehand? Like,
Yeah, beforehand.
Okay.
You know, like luckily I'm surrounding myself with musicians that I know can do these that I know can play these songs and perfect it down to a T, so to speak.
Right.
And I'm not meaning like a perfect performance. I mean like we collectively can make it sound genuine. But yeah, like if I write a song like A Fleeting Glance or Era, when that was in the demo stages, I knew that this is what, like, I knew what it would take from the individual guys in the band, and I knew what I wanted it to sound like.
Okay.
And I tried to achieve that even with the demos. I mean, the demo still sounds, I would say, genuine, only with a, you know, more synthetic and boring, dull sound than what we ended up with for the actual record. But yeah, I so to speak, plan everything at a very early stage
And when you listen back to everything, do you notice why for certain instances you'll use a jazz influence, and for certain influences you'll go more into psychedelic music, or do you know where these things come from?
No, not really, because I don't pinpoint like what comes next. You know, like what is this and why did I write it or whatever. You know, I only name, like I have working titles for the songs at the demo stage, so I write a few riffs or I have a melody and it's like, what does it sound like? It sounds like jazz, so that becomes the working title. There was actually one song called Jazz and a working title.
Which one was this?
It's a song called The Ward, which is a bonus track. It's not really jazzy, it's a bit perhaps influenced by that, but whatever. But I don't really, I just write. It's only afterwards I know, like, I feel like, oh, this sounds a bit bluesy, you know.
Right.
It's not never meant in advance to become, you know, like a bluesy part. You know, it's just I write, and all of a sudden I write something that I like, and it just happens to be, you know, a jump to a different genre.
So in this sense, and then I kind of know the answer, I think, but you mentioned this fearlessness. So you have, when you write, you're completely free then. Yeah,
I am completely free. But once I know, like once I have something, once I have the like maybe the basic idea to a song or something that I feel is a theme, I'm already like planning ahead for the actual recording, what it's going to sound like, what the performance is going to be like. But when I write, it's very much real time. I just blurt it out.
So is this true then for lyrically as well? That you discover certain themes along the way and kind of?
No, like sometimes there's been records where I like came up with an idea and this is going to be the theme for the record. But the last couple of ones have been also very heat at the moment, just like the music. Where I write a part and I'm going to sing something on this part, and I need lyrics. I write something and it's like, oh, that's pretty good. I'll use that. And then I read it afterwards, and maybe sometimes I don't really understand what I'm writing about, but at some point in the songwriting process, you know, I look down at the piece of paper and it's like, okay, this is what this song is supposed to be about. And, you know, for the last record, for instance, lots of like personal, private stuff that I wrote about. That kind of find its way into the lyrics in a bunch of songs, like 4 or 5 songs or something like that. That kind of dealt with the same type of thing. But again, it's nothing I planned. You know, like I only start planning once I get going.
You feel over the years you've written about a lot of subjects, big topics like religion as well. Was it difficult to turn inwards, like you said?
No, not difficult, but not something like the difficult thing about that was maybe because perhaps I didn't want to write about me. I don't think that I'm interesting, if you know what I mean. I don't think my personal life is interesting or necessarily something I want people to ask or know about, if you know what I mean. Which ultimately led me to thinking I have nothing to say, you know, so that will be it, you know, because that's what's going on in my head at least. So that's one step on the road. So it wasn't difficult really, because that's what came out. I didn't kind of prevent myself from writing that stuff. I just needed something, so that's what came out.
Fair enough. Finally, then, well, you've talked about how you prefer now to the creative part of the process. So, are you already working on new things, and is your mind constantly on the next?
No, because I go into some type of sleep mode in between finishing a record and until starting the next one. So it's only when I have the first riff or the first song maybe that I get going and that I get some type of ideas. In between it's like zombie.
Is it necessary to clear your mind, so to say, and be fresh and
I think so. It has worked for me for 3 or 4 records. At least when I don't, I write everything as a bulk. You know, I kind of write everything from start to finish during one process. You know, I don't write a little bit here, a little bit there. I just write everything. So I think I store up influences in that zombie stage, like right now. I probably store up something without really knowing.
Right.
And because I consume music all the time, that's also a source of inspiration, of course. And I guess I can't feel it. I don't know it for sure.
Sure.
But if I'm forced, if I'm asked about it, that's the only explanation that I would have.
Well,
is that I probably store up inspiration.
Well, this is my very last question. And if we take Sorceress and we go back to the time you were kind of starting up writing, if you go back to that time and the type of music you were listening to, do you see connections, or is that too?
No, I don't.
Okay.
You know, people ask me, you know, that's like the first question, what was the inspiration behind the new record? What were you listening to? And I'm like, well, me and my girlfriend, we're listening to lots of John Coltrane, but I can't really hear it in the music.
Sure.
There's no saxophone. There's no lines I nicked from John Coltrane or whatever I was listening to. There is one thing that it actually came back, and that's for the song Will o' the Wisp, because I was listening, like there's a couple of bands that like I listen to in cycles. I listen a lot to them for periods of time, and then I stop, and then I come back. Like Priest, Black Sabbath, and in this case Jethro Tull, which I wrote a song I really want to do just a simple chords and a nice vocal melody, like Jethro Tull, basically. And that became, I wouldn't say a rip-off Jethro Tull song, but it does sound like something that could come from that camp, I think. But I still like to think, even if it's inspired by, I think it sounds Opeth to me. You know, we've done lots of those types of songs in the past too. And what I wanted with this song was to put a capo, which is basically a thing that you put it on the neck of the guitar, and you kind of raise the key of the song, because it gives a glittering vibe to the guitar, which is basically what I was after. But ultimately I wanted a simple song, and even if it does kind of remind me of Jethro Tull, it also reminds me of lots of other artists and bands who've done simple chord-based songs with a nice melody. That's ultimately what it is. But I was listening to lots of Jethro Tull, so I can for sure say that in this case they were the inspiration.
Mikael, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Cheers.